Hello and welcome to the Indo GAA pod. Delighted to be back in the hot seat this week and joined by John and Pat once again. Boys, how we doing?
All good, Bernie.
Boys, just before we kick into gear, I would just say to all our listeners and all our viewers that the Irish Independent are running a survey at the moment across the entire podcast network. It only takes a minute to complete, and your feedback will help inform the Indo's approach around various podcasts. Plus, when you take part, you'll be in with a chance to win a €500 one-for-all voucher. Just head to mypodcastfeedback.com. That's mypodcastfeedback.com and enter the code GAA. Just boys, I don't know about G, but a €500 one-for-all will go down fairly well in my household at the minute anyway, and down well in yours, Pat, too, because you're going to need to buy a hell of a lot of nappies over the next while. But
yeah, it's coming soon. I heard you brought back. I heard you to check on a few extra bags come back from Cheltenham.
I tell you,
full of cash coming home.
It was an absolute bloodbath. Oh my God! Thankfully, I don't go in strong anymore, because if I had, I would have been coming back without a bag. I would have been coming back without an underpants as well, boys. To be honest with you, it was
not the only one.
And I don't envy you. I watch you have going ahead for the next spot. 2 years. When did the nappies? How long the nappies last for?
Well, we're party training our little lady at the moment here, and she's nearly 3 now, and it's not simple.
Oh jeez, I felt like I had fucking 18 years of fucking nappies. Jesus Christ. And I can educate you now on how to change a nappy.
Oh,
a big dirty runny nappy, Pat. Oh, Jesus, not like it.
I could do it a lesson or two, John. I tell you that now. I'm a bit nervous now. It's coming next
all ahead of your son.
Pampers might sponsor the pod here or something.
This would be a right one, actually, wouldn't it? Right? I'll need another 2 years at least of them anweigh. But exciting times ahead for you, Pat, and very exciting times on the hurling front as well, obviously, with the league final coming up. We'll start with your Limerick, Pat, last weekend. Jeez, it was a mad kind of a game, because Galway were brilliant in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Then Limerick kind of pushed up, pressed them really aggressively. The tackling around the middle third was manic. It was mental. Limerick looked like they were going to totally dominate the game, and then there was this incredible comeback from Galway, and they easily could have got something out of the game at the end. It was a mad game, brilliant game.
Brilliant game. Probably very unlucky not to get something out at the end. They were that much better in the second half. That only for Adam English's shot came off the post, and Aaron Gillan put that ball into the back of the net.
Just on that, lads, you were both inside forwards. Like, Killian Trayers did nothing wrong. He reacted really quick, even had his hurl across. But like, that was just lightning from Gillan. It's textbook corner forward play, John, isn't it? Yeah.
It's his eyes. Watch as it's Adam English hits the ball in. He's watching the flight of the ball the whole time. As the ball is coming in, any other corner forward would say, right, that's just going to go over the bar. His eyes are transfixed on the flight of the ball, and he's anticipating, right, the law of averages, the percentage that it might be 1-2% that it might come back off the post, and he's going to be ready. And you can see his eyes are waiting. And to try and coach that is just ridiculous. But you could see his eyes, and that's just years of being that predator instinct of saying, right, I'm going to await anything that's going to drop my way. And even if it comes off, if it ricochets off the goalkeeper, if it ricochets off the post, I'm going to be ready. And that is just a sign of class.
And even there was a collector's item, Pat, underneath the stand there as well, where he threw a lovely dummy, and he probably should have been off the pitch, and only they knew there was danger coming. And I think Kylie was worried when he saw him pulling up, but I think it was just cramp. He came back onto the pitch, threw a dummy to his left, and threw one over off his right, Pat. An absolute collector's item from the sideline.
Yeah, he's leaky from the sideline, so he is. It's usually off his other side, but he is two-sided, as you say. We don't see it too often because he's just so good at getting the shot off his good side.
Yeah.
Now he almost doesn't have to do it, But he was brilliant. But overall, a game just filled with unbelievable quality when it came to shooting. Like, I was in the game, I was in the open stand. It's a fabulous place to watch a game. The quality from both sides, that's on the pint taking and the shots, was just off the absolute charts. Galway started really well. They're moving the ball. saying to John beforehand there, fella said to me at half time, even though they were 11 points down, they said, "Geez, what you make of that? What you make of Galway?" And I said, "God, they moved the ball so well." And your man kind of looked at me, "Well, they don't move it that well." I kind of said, they're 11 points down. And I was kind of sitting guessing myself, yeah, no, that's true too, but they do pass the ball. And no, I didn't foresee what was going to come in the second half at all in terms of them coming back. But what they were doing in the first half was, I couldn't get over how deep, when you're high up in an open stand like that, you really see it. Their whole full forward line for every puck out basically came out. It was almost like a 6-man half forward line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what Limerick, I think what Limerick done on the field, well, maybe it was Paul Kinnerk or John Kiley got it across them, but they're so smart on the field. They've so much, time played together, and they're such a smart hurling team, whatever about physicality and skill. They seem to realise after about 10 minutes, Limerick, lads, okay, William O'Donoghue, you'll sit, but everybody else can push completely up on their men because they have no danger inside, lads. They're coming out the field. They want to get, they want to get a few of these triangles going, as you see now in modern day hurling. Limerick probably started. They want everybody out the field, and they want to shoot from out the field, right? So it seemed that Limerick got a grip of that when they pushed up after 10 minutes. And I thought at half time then I did think that the game was over.
Of course.
Galway in the second half, because that tactic of like all your half Ireland coming out, I couldn't get over. Kilkenny in the 2 All-Irelands, they played Limerick in 22 and 23. Their full forward line was never deep, lads, in them All-Irelands. I know what they were probably trying to do. They were probably trying to say, we have to match Limerick's work rate. We have to bring the whole war thing in the middle zone and all this, and we have to come out. But I always found when you've no depth inside, you've no second option at all. The first option, the only option you have then is to run the ball and shoot from distance. And then what Limerick done, of course, was that when they pushed up, like Barry Nash pushed right out, Sean Finn pushed right out in his man. And then Galway found it harder than they did in the first 10 or 15 minutes, and they're getting the shots off. Now, they got him off in the second half, right? Fair enough. But in that first half, when Limerick pushed up, they really seemed to squeeze them deep, And when Galway, I couldn't get it. Was my first time seeing Galway, actually my second time seeing Galway live since I saw them in Thurles and Tip in the first round. But they were like a new team even 5 rounds later. How deep they were going throughout the middle of the field and running the ball. And their idea is, like, obviously you think of Galway, you think of Cathal Mannion, which is such an incredible shooter. But lads, he's not the only one. They have a couple of them now. They have Neary, they have Burke, they have Daniels, they have all these fellas out there. And it's clear to see now they're saying, we're going to drop back, we're going to get the ball, we're going to get our heads up, lads. All we need is probably one pass, one free man out there. We get that one pass, we get our shot off. They outshooted Limerick in the second half. It's pretty clear from Galway they're going to say 36 points against Kilkenny, 31 points against Limerick. They're starting to say, lads, we're going to start outshooting oppositions. If we outshoot oppositions, we're going to trust our shooters that we'll get the result here.
So structure-wise, Pat, right, break this down for me. In previous matches, they went with one up top and they brought bodies. They brought as many bodies out to that middle third as possible. And so when you listen to Shane Mack coming down from the radio, I was doing radio duties up in Wexford, and he said after about 10, 15 minutes that Limerick withdrew out the field, kind of mirrored Galway in that middle third, and then they went with one up top with Galan. So are you telling me then that did Galway go with one up top, starting off in the first 10, 15 minutes?
To be honest, John, it almost felt like they had nobody up top. At all. I think they were trying to get so into the game, and I think if you go back to 12 months ago when they played Limerick in the Gaelic grounds, Limerick took over very early and were on top all the time. I think maybe they wanted to set the tone, John, and say, we have to get on possessions early here, as we can't let Limerick get into their groove. Now, Limerick eventually did, and when they get into their groove, like they did in the first half, they were incredible. But Galway, Rabbit was the closest man up top for a lot of it, John. Tom Monaghan was out all the time. Their wing forwards were back in the half-back line for every single puck out. Just trying to get that pop pass. Like, there was no, like, Mannion centre-back, all the Galway half-back line. There was no long balls played up in the first half of the Galway half-back line, John. Every single ball was, you turn either backwards, back into, just say if it was Glennon at number 5, you give it to the wing forward, you give it to your midfielder, or you give it back into Mannion at 6. There's your 3 options. You do one of those 3 options. And it came against them a small bit. I think that they just were looking for too much work, if you know what I mean, in terms of inside forwards, coming out and trying to get too involved. Like, lads, modern day panels in backroom teams with stats, the emphasis and importance that's placed on the amount of tackles you get. Some of these statsmen, lads, and fellas in management teams now, they don't care what you score almost above the full forward line. They'll want you to hit your target of 10 tackles and a half, or you won't play. And sometimes when you watch teams like this, you wonder, why isn't that fella staying up closer to goals? Because he knows that on Tuesday night, if he goes in and if he has 2 tackles in the first half, he's going to get his hole opened. He's not. He's going to get ousted in front of everyone. You know, and they just stand up in front of the room and they say, this isn't good enough. So people are hunting for tackles. They're not, inside forwards aren't as worried about scores at the moment. And I think that's where you're seeing it, John. You know, they're just all trying to please their manager. You please your manager, you stay on the team. Every player wants to play.
So yeah, because you wouldn't. It's hard when you try and pick up that by watching your TV. So Limerick kind of counteract that. Came into the game in that kind of second quarter, got on top. And was it a case of a Limerick drop off, or was it a case then of maybe Galway? They kind of had to climatise to what was actually being thrown at them then with the high level of intensity that Limerick engaged with Galway in that middle third. And would I be right in saying that Galway kind of got the grips with that kind of climatising with what Limerick were throwing at them, and then they found they found a way to kind of to pick off those scores. Would I be right in saying that?
I think so. Yeah, it's kind of the $1 million question. It's a funny one. I've been mulling that over the last couple of days myself, even trying to figure it out. And I don't know. Do you watch UFC? Right, I watch a little bit of UFC.
Yeah.
And you know when you'd see the grapplers in the UFC when they get on top of a fella, and a fella almost has to lie on his back until, you know, he tries to get up, or he can't do what he maybe practiced for a couple of months for a fight. I don't think Limerick dropped off and all. No, they'll think they will themselves, of course. But looking from the outside in, I just think it was Galway got on top of them. You know, they started moving the ball even better. The shots, their shot efficiency in the second half was absolutely sick. When you're hitting balls 65 yards out on the sideline, one pop bang, next thing is just sailing over the bar. The lift that gives the team, it allows the next man to take on the shot as well. Like Neary came on, he gave an exhibition of shooting. He was
man of the match probably. Apart from Cathal O'Neill,
What did they score 22 points? Did they score 22 points in that second half?
I think it was 20. Was it? It could have been 22 now. It was over 20.
22 points against Limerick lads in 36, 37 minutes for hurling.
And we're just mentioning like Galan's goal, only for it, like Galway were winning the game like only for it, and it was
I said this to Pat Bernie. Galway were getting to the finishing line quicker than Limerick. That breathed a bit of life, that kind of gave them the cushion, that kind of gave them that little bit of a buffer. But I'm going on Pat's opinion that there was no drop off from Limerick.
I would have said a small bit. Now they couldn't get hands on. Now that was partly to do with Galway, but there was a little bit of a small bit of a Limerick drop off in that as well. Like they were
more credit to Galway is all that. More credit to Galway, I'm saying, just saying Limerick dropped off. You know, that kind of, because them Limerick players, lads, I'm telling you think just because they were 11 points up at half time, being in that dressing room, that would mean nothing to Limerick. And so focused and so drilled over the last 10 years of that meaning nothing if you were 6 points down at half time or 6 points up. It's relevant to the way they think and the way they operate. So it really is. And I'm not trying to talk up Galway just for the sake of it. It really was that impressive from Galway. And I came away from I remember the first round above against Tip, coming away from Galway thinking, geez, they could be improved this year, you know, and they could win Leinster. And I came away the other night thinking these lads could go. There's no reason why these fellas, if they produced the hurling they have in the last 2 rounds, won't book their place in the Ireland semi-final, and won't, when they get to Croke Park, won't even suit them more. And we could be looking at Galway in an Ireland final here with a young, exciting, talented team. And, you know, if they're playing like that and scoring 30, any listener that listens to the pod here that's commenting, I'd love to know when was the last time Limerick conceded over 30 points from Whitefoot, no goals included. I don't remember it anyway at all. And it was just so impressive the other night. So impressive.
And just even on that, like Galway won their All-Ireland in 17 without scoring goals generally, and putting up that type of a score. Was a 26 points, I think, beat Waterford in the All-Ireland final. It was maybe 25 in the semi, but it was high points tallies, not goals. And like
believe it or not, going off of what Pat just spoke about there about sometimes playing with no full forward. If you go back to 2017 when they won that All-Ireland, lads, and I can, if my memory serves me correct, even looking down from the gantry, some of the matches, there was times in during those matches they didn't have anyone up top. That it's gas that you say that their half forward line dropped deep and their full forward line nearly came out nearly just behind their wing forward line, behind their half forward line. And as you said, they were thinking to themselves, well, look, we'll get the 30 points, and if we get a goal along the way, that means we only have to get 27 points. But what they have now in abundance now, and the luxury they have the shooters to go after 30 points. Like Rabbit could get you 4 or 5 points. Nyland could get you 4 or 5 points. Mannion, Whelan, Neary, Rory Burke wasn't
and all of a sudden, like, there's no reliance on Conor Whelan. There's not the same reliance on Conor Whelan or any player now, even Mannion.
I don't think you could, lads. If we sat down here for an hour, I don't think we'd be able to name their starting top 8 at least, anyway. Starting team for the first round, because they've had so many fellas play so well. And if you go back 12 months ago, John McGrath and Jason Ford barely featured in the league with Tip. I remember being at games and thinking, like, God, Cahill doesn't fancy these two this year. He's not bringing them on even, And next thing, look what happened in the championship. Then they came back in. So who's to say Conor Cooney, lads?
Yeah.
This isn't getting him more than a training, and him, a player of his caliber and experience, the other night thinking, like, I have to get into this team. Look at the way this team is moving. If I get my chance.
Well, Pat, you even look at Brian Concannon.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen Brian Concannon for the last couple of weeks, and even he came in, even short space of time, the impact that he had Saturday night. But just going on Kiley, and I always kind of home in on his interviews, he said that he will take the Limerick panel and the Limerick management. They'll take huge value of the way that second half played out in regards how they're going to break it down and how they'll address how it actually played out in the manner in which it did Saturday night, Pat.
Yeah, it's almost like they're a bunch of hurling nerds in one way, if you know what I mean. So how much they'll watch that management will watch that second half, lads. They'd be together on Monday.
Will they dissect that down to the last?
They will dissect it down to the last. Now, when it comes in front of the team, it'll probably be just on Tuesday. It'll probably be three solid points. There's one thing about Sean O'Donnell is the stats guy there that kind of relays some of these stuff, and he's great to work with.
Just on Sean O'Donnell, he's with Ballygunner as well. How good is this chap?
Sure, he's unbelievable, John. He was, people talk about 2018 being the catalyst for change. Paul and everyone talks about Caroline being there every year when we won All-Ireland. Caroline was there in 2017 too, and we didn't. And Paul was there, and John was there. Now, of course, they done great work. But we brought Sean O'Donnell in 2018.
You took him from Cork. You prized him away.
We took him from Cork. He's a Limerick man. He's living in Cork, but he's a Limerick man. He's a Gary Spillane man originally, and we took him, and thank God we did, because he changed everything, John, in terms of.
So like, give us an insight into what this chap does now.
I'll give you one point before Pat goes into it. Owen Brislan said to me, and he's a very successful club manager and won an intermediate club All-Ireland with Monleen. He said, this is a verbatim quote, he said, I thought I knew something about hurling until I met Sean O'Donnell. That's exactly what he said to me. So Pat, you tell us exactly what he did with G.
Yeah, but it's incredible. People say, it's a simple game, but we all complicate it. You know what I mean? Sure, he simplifies it down, John. We were doing bits of video analysis before he came along, and maybe I'd say you could probably relate to this if you've been involved in teams. There was coaches doing it the year before that weren't specialists at this, and there was times where we could have done it before training and it would be flagged for 15 minutes. We'd be in there for 45, 50 minutes trying, going over it. Sean O'Donnell does it for 15 minutes before training, John, and it's a skill and a talent in itself. It doesn't go over the 15 minutes. It's 2-3 points. He has an incredible eye for it. He has, if you were in the Gaelic grounds tonight, you'd see it. Like you think it was probably TG Carr. There's a drone flying above the stadium. That's Sean. He's drawn. You know what I mean? That's
I'm just
saying, you're showing everything, John. You know what I mean? You're showing how other teams work the ball. The behind the goals camera, I see in club hurling, even if you can get access to behind the goals cameras. Yeah. That's where you really see, as you said, John, like, what we had a Galway set up there tonight. I hate watching games on telly sometimes because you don't know how teams set up when you watch games on telly. You watch the angle from behind the goals and you see everything. You see what they're trying to do. You see what the half forward line is trying to do to win puckouts by where they're going. You see what the half back line is doing by are they staying, are they crossing over, etc. So Shawnee will take no more than 3. If there's 5 important points, he won't say, all right, we've gone, no, 3 important points this week. We hone in on these 3, and of course, when you have a good setup, then he talks about it beforehand. Like I work in data, he takes the descriptive and the predictive data. he gives it to Paul Connaughton in terms of a prescriptive way, where Paul goes out in and sets up what Shawnee's thinking about, or what Shawnee's talking about inside. So if you're working on Cork are very good at it now in the fast half forward, and Tip are very good at it. So he'll show behind the goals footage of, that movement of what they'll do. They'll go out into training, and then you'll recreate that movement for the half backline to get the Limerick half backline used to, okay, what do we do, lads, if they overload to this side? Okay, you know what we do. Diarmuid, you stay at your side, push across, but we're not leaving the other side free, because that's what they want with their legs. They want to run into it. So now, it's all about what fits the team and the players you have, John. It's easy to say some things with Limerick when you have such a big, strong command and half backline. If you don't have that half backline, you can't play like that, where you hold your space maybe.
Would this be based on behind the goal camera?
Most footage I found that teams are watching is behind the goals, yeah.
Now, the next question I ask you, on radio duties, right, could be up in the gantry, right? Now, Limerick are probably the only, team or group that are doing this. They have a camera up in the gantry on match day, and it's kind of like they have like two cameras, like one kind of based on the defense, and the other based on the forward division. So is that then, when we mentioned this last year, and the fact that you're with us now, I mentioned this last year. So those cameras up in the gantry, those two or three cameras that are going home and right down on the pitch, is that then being linked down to Connacht and Kiley on match day?
I wouldn't. Not everything would be disclosed to players in such of what they're reading, because they even video stuff at training, but we never see training footage.
Okay.
If the cameras are there, they're being used by management. So that I would say that, if the cameras are there and they're using them, Shawnee's using it. He's probably going down at half time. We'd often see Shawnee at half time walking into the dressing room. He wouldn't maybe always address the players. Now that he's walking in straight over to John or Paul for 2 minutes, relaying something that he's seen from that higher up view. I always find it interesting. I don't watch much rugby or anything like that, but it's interesting when you see coaches up at the higher view, compared to in the GAA where they're down real low. And even myself, when you go into the Gaelic grounds of the night, I love to, because at the league you don't have assigned seats, I love to go up as high as possible to see as much as possible.
But is that not an advantage for the likes of Limerick over the other teams, and that other teams are not kind of picking up on this,
I'd be surprised if a lot of other teams aren't doing it. Now I know you're up in the gantry, so you maybe you're right and they're not doing it. I would have just assumed, John, that a lot of teams are doing this, and I could be wrong. Assumption can be the killer sometimes. They mightn't be doing it, and just if another team does it, like, I remember thinking for years, even at a younger age and below, and when Kilkenny were dominant, and club managers and underage managers be talking to, right, we see Kilkenny doing this now, we'll try and do this. You can't always do what other teams do.
Yeah.
Even if you try and do it, like, it's like teams trying to play like Limerick. If you don't have the facilities to do it, and Galway seem to have it, lads, in terms of being able to work that ball. Galway just seem to be incredible passers of the ball.
The stick passing, Pat, was just
the stick passing is off the charts.
Yeah, it was into stride. Like, it wasn't like me hitting the ball to you. It was me hitting the ball where you're going to be receiving the ball, if that makes sense. And it was all bang, bang. And it just even going through some of the players that have come through. Like, as you said, Darren Erie changed the game when he came in. Rabbit was good in the first half at times. He was outstanding in the second half. And he is the outball, because you do need an outball. And it's great to have that. And lads, he's so raw even at this stage. Jesus Christ, when he fills out in 4 or 5 years and is a full grown man.
He's going to be another Garrod Hegarty. That's what he's going to be. He's going to be another Garrod Hegarty. He'd remind me now of Garrod Hegarty when Garrod Hegarty was that age, 19, 20. Like, you're 100% right, Bernie. Could you imagine now Rabbit when he reaches 23, 24? He's going to be a beast of a man.
Yeah. Just on Limerick as well, lads. I thought it was quite noticeable as well, and maybe Limerick played a lot of long ball in the other night, Pat. Like that lovely diagonal ball. Even Barry Nash was striking ball 100 yards even at different stages. But like, when you have, I didn't think they were feeding Gillan personally in the earlier games, and by Jays did they feed him the other night. And even O'Donnell when he came in, and it didn't always stick now. But I think they're gone back to that a bit more as well, because they often made hay on that long diagonal ball.
I think as Gillan seems to improve in game on game as well, lads. And I think, knowing Limerick the way they'd look at it, we'll just say if he's retaining, it's all about percentages in this crack now inside. So if he's winning 70% of the ball that came in the last 2 games, I think Fernie Detzler would have seen that the other day now.
Yeah.
We were like, lads, he's winning the ball that's going in. Let's put it into him. Let's give him, like, he got 1-2 in the second half. It was one great ball from Will O'Donoghue where it was that ball straight to his helmet, we'll say, and sure, you know, that's almost the most undefendable ball. He just turned, and himself and Trayers had a great battle. He's a very good young player.
Trayers got Darren Morrissey got clipped for a couple of points in the first half. Trayers went toe to toe with him, and he got 1-2 off him, but he did very well on him. Like
it was kind of like that. Sure, it was a game at two halves, and like so many fellas all throughout the field hurled really well.
Yeah,
you know, Keane Daniels hurled really well midfield. Adam English hurled really well midfield. There was loads. Conor O'Neill gave an excellent.
Savage.
It was just the goal.
But Pat, he's opening up now again. I didn't think, because of the hamstring trouble he had last year, I didn't think he was able to open up and burn lads. But like that, Galway be kicking themselves that line ball across the field because he pounced on it.
He was still 65 yards out.
Yeah.
Funny, you know, to be that far out and to think God, we gave away a goal chance. It was the finish as well. The finish was brilliant. You know, that low and hard. It just absolutely. You couldn't even see it, you know, and it bounced off. The ground is getting harder now as well, lads. You see that the other night with the amount of scores in the games. Galway are going to get better as the ground, you know, continues to get harder. And that a drier ball suits shooters, lads. Drier ball suits shooters.
The one beautiful thing about Limerick that they have in their armour right now is that, you know, different weeks, different players are popping up and being the match winners. I mean, you had Aidan O'Connor, it could be Adam English, Colin O'Neill last weekend, Galan. Even the Bull O'Brien at the moment, probably by his own standards, he's relatively quiet. But the next day, then he could end up being the match winner. And then that's not even to say then you've Peter Casey. Where was Peter Casey? Was he injured bad?
He was a few small knocks there, I think, between the two Morrisseys and Peter as well. But again, just looking to the interview after the match with John, he said everyone should be available and talking for the final.
Even Darragh Donovan.
Yeah, he said everyone. Yeah, he said we should have a full panel. We should have a full panel. He said. I presume he meant Darragh and that as well, because he said we should have everyone.
Should the final be in the Gaelic ground, lads?
I thought it was only going to be in Croke Park. You know that. It was just when I was thinking about it that night, I didn't know there was a home and away arrangement for league finals as well. I see a thing online. You know, they played a league final down in Cork in 1980. And they hadn't played one since Limerick and Cork.
You owe you one back, lads. It might be 46 years later, but you owe us one.
I thought even Thurles, you know, they might have been in Thurles. But look, I'm happy, sure, when you're in Limerick, it's fine. But I thought it would have been a chance nearly for Croke Park, considering how much Limerick and Cork are heavily supported. And then if you do want to have the 1B final with it, I thought it's something the GAA might have done. But look, it's in Limerick. It is what it is. It's grand for me.
Yeah, that's a lovely pre-Munster Championship game. And I'm sure they will go hammer and tongs at it, because at the end of the day, there's national silverware up for grabs.
It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, that should be a great occasion, even with the two of them together, lads. We'll have a little look at Tip and Kilkenny. Mull, as regards a bit of a bounce back from Kilkenny after that Galway result, looked like the game was going to get away from them at different times the other day, but it was a crazy kind of a game. Funny kind of a game, quality-wise. There was a lot of mistakes and turnovers and drop balls, etc. But from a Kilkenny point of view, it's gas. TJ was back. He was in the edge of the square, and he was as dangerous as ever.
Lads, I mean, he's gone on 39 this year.
No, you're adding. No, he's going on 38 this year, I think.
No, he's not, Mick.
He's not going on 39.
He's
39 in October.
He's 39 in October, 39 in October.
You stay talking, I'm going to check that out there.
He's the GOAT, lads. He's the GOAT, and I keep saying that he's the GOAT, and like, people keep...
You're right, Mull. Apologies. I hold my hand up. You're right.
People keep referencing his age, lads. I mean, look what Ronaldo's doing. Look what Michael Jordan done in basketball, and like, he was always going to find his way into the full forward line, and like, he's so good in the air. I mean, he could play in full forward for the next 2 to 3 years easily if he keeps, you know, looking after himself in the way he's doing at the moment. But like, look at even the lift, his presence alone, lads, on the pitch. If you're a Kilkenny player, if you're Owen Cody, or even say Mossy Keown, or even that young Moore chap,
yeah,
and you're probably after having probably 1 or 2 disappointments to date in the league, and next thing you're seeing TJ back in the fold, back on the edge of the square. That gives you a lift straight away. You kind of have that reassurance that, you know what, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Like, we have him, albeit if he's going on 39 years of age. We know when we have him, he's going to hit the freeze. He's going to get a couple of points from play. He can get a goal. He can bring other players into play. And that gives the whole team a lift. And to be fair to Derek Lyng, in the aftermath of the match, he came out and he said, look, it was a tough couple of weeks. And he said the criticism was warranted. He said the criticism was warranted. We've levels in Kilkenny and we came well below those levels. And for a manager like that to come out and say that, great credit has to go to him. And for some of the Kilkenny players, like the most difficult criticism, lads, as you well know, is the criticism within your own county. All right. We'll always have our opinion. You'll give your opinion, I'll give your opinion. And Pat, you gave your opinion on Kilkenny as well. But the worst criticism you can get is criticism within your county.
Yeah.
And that criticism can either go one of two ways. It can either drive you to keep performing well below par, or it can drive you to grind the teeth and roll the sleeves and say, you know what, we're going to get the show back on the road. And for me, I think they got the show back on the road. And as I said 2 weeks ago, lads, you can never rule these lads off. You can never rule these lads out. You want to be crazy, and they'll still be there. Albeit all the talk is going to be about Galway coming into the Leinster Championship, and probably Galway might be slight favourites, maybe even with many of the bookies right now to win Leinster. But I tell you, Kilkenny will still be the team to beat for me.
Just on what you said, Dermot, they probably wouldn't have thanked Andy Comerford for his words on Kilkenny Community Radio, but it has probably lit a fire under them. And there was a mitigating factor. By all accounts, there was something funny going on with the water out in the training centre of excellence out in Dunmore, and I believe 20 players ended up sick as a result of it, and some players haven't got back since, and that's nearly a month ago now. So like there was a bit of a mitigating circumstances there. So I'm not saying that they would chalk that off, that happened just because of that, but you know yourself, these things lead into it. Lads are sick coming into the game or whatever. It's funny, from a tip point of view, Pat, this was a game they really should have won. And they will be disappointed with how porous their defence was at different stages. They've kind of mixed the good with the fairly bad at different times during the league. It's hard to get a proper gauge on them.
It is, yeah. Dave, I think you're looking at a team in terms of Liam Cahill now as well, that I think he's took the confidence from winning the All-Ireland last year, Mick. There's a complete contrast in this year's league to last year's, where he felt the pressure, he felt he needed to get results, he felt he needed to probably build a team together, because the championship the year before hadn't went well. Whereas now he's All-Ireland champions, he can say, you know what, we won an under-20s All-Ireland, we're All-Ireland champions. I want to get a good look at some of these fellas here. I want to be able, I've earned that right now. You know what I mean? He's able to say, if I want to move Oisin O'Donoghue back to the half-back line, I can do that. If I want to see Joe Caesar playing further up the field like he did against Joel in the Fitzgibbon final, scoring 1-4, I think he got. I can do that now. I can. Yeah. I have the money in the bank, and even going back to this game, it was still a fantastic game. I watched it back the morning after, tipping Kilkenny from 2009 to 2019. Like, this rivalry was just. It was the top rivalry in the whole GAA, and they just gave us so many great games. And I was thinking back to the first of that rivalry when it started, and about TJ Reid as well. I look back on it there the other night. The league final that went to extra time. That was 2009.
Henry got a black card, didn't he? And Shamie Cannon done Brian Hogan's shoulder the same day, I think.
Yeah, Richie Hogan really. He made his debut the year before, but he really burst onto the scene in that game. He went to town that game. There was a man by the name of full forward lads, TJ Reid, that day. Got a sideline cut over the bar, and I'm thinking, like, that's 17 years ago.
Yeah.
TJ Reid was playing full forward against Tip. Marking Paul Curran, when was Paul Curran born? He was probably 30 at the time. He was probably, 19, late 70s, 80s, whatever it is. And then he was marking Oisin, or playing against Oisin O'Donoghue the other night, who was born in 2006. Like, that's the longevity of TJ Reid here that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And, for him to go out the other night, his first game back of the year, marking a current All-Star, Ronan Maher, and to get 1-4 from play, he's outrageous. And the same can be said for Jake Morris on the other side, lads. He was absolutely outstanding. And I know I seen during the week, and Tipperary posted, he'd lost his grandfather, and what a way to kind of honour him, to turn up and play the match and to give such a display. And Jake Morris really is. He was probably a bit unlucky not to get Hurler of the Year as well last year. It was one of those years where maybe two fellas deserved it. In terms of himself and John McGrath was back in school, they'd split the award. You know, you'd often see that crack in school, but John McGrath got it. But that's how good Jake Morris was last year. If he won Hurler of the Year, no one would have batted an eyelid either. So
where do you think Tip are right now, lads?
It's hard to get it. It's hard to get a proper gauge. Like, but it's funny. Like Pat was saying about the league last year, they had something to prove, and he had to kind of nail down a team. Whereas this year he knows that he can revert back to what got them to the top of the mountain. Whereas this year he needs to find more options. He needs to have certain lads road tested, be it Oisin O'Donoghue, a wing back, whether that's a long term thing or not. I doubt it somehow. But he's trying different things, and they probably haven't shown, like even when they played Limerick, Rhys Shelley didn't play in goal. Like they haven't shown their cards really. Do you know what I mean?
I think they're in a very good place. I think when they look back in the league, they still. You know, Kilkenny, I know, look, they went 5 points up in the second half of the day. Mick, you can say, Tipperary probably should have won. They probably should have. But they also went, you know, the first score of the game the other day was Moore getting the goal. Moore had 1-2 in the first 10 minutes. Owen Cody, they kind of showed the intent straight down the barrel of the goal in the first second. And Tip still recovered from that. So overall, I think they're in a good place. I know they lost to Limerick and I know they lost to Cork. They kind of have don't want to say the excuse that they were missing a lot of, especially their starting six backs. I think you look at the last championship game, obviously we know how that went against Cork in the All-Ireland final. That's where their confidence will come from, not the league.
Yeah.
I think they're going into, and it's on in Thurles in 3 weeks from this Sunday. I think they're in a great position for it. I really do. I think that's going to be an incredible game. It's getting harder to call as we get closer to it. I think it's getting really harder to call because there's still going to be more pressure on Cork, isn't there?
Yeah.
Coming up because they lost that All-Ireland final last year too, Tip will probably have that inner belief and confidence, like they'll all look around at each other next couple of weeks. Lads, we know how to beat Cork. We know what it took to beat Cork last year. You know, now I'm not talking about winning by 15 points, just saying that if we put as much contact on them as possible, like they did in the first half last year, we will break them down. So, John, I actually think they're in a very good spot. I think no one Tipperary, they'll be quietly confident that they'll turn over Cork in the first round. Now, whether they will or not, because Cork are really, really good. You know, that's the choice.
But it's frightening, lads, to think that in 4 weeks' time, all right, these teams, the majority of these teams, particularly in Munster, they've really got to hit the ground running. Like, particularly in the first 2 weeks, like, it's about April the 19th and then the following week. Like, those 2 weeks are going to be massive. Not alone just for how the Munster Championship is going to play out, but how the All-Ireland as a whole is going to play out. It's a massive, massive, massive 2 weeks. And, like, you look at the football championship, I was saying to a couple of the football pundits the weekend, like, you look at Kerry last year in the football. They had time to grow into the championship and become All-Ireland champions. But it's the polar opposite in the Hurling Championship, where, particularly in the Munster Championship, where you've got to be at it from the word.
You're peaking from the start, essentially, aren't you? Like, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, and hence then why after the Munster Championship, Leinster Championship, there is a small bit of an anti-climax when it comes to the quarterfinals. Like,
yeah, just a quick one, lads. We're all big TG Cahill advocates and fans, but I have to say I didn't like the footage coming up, the Kilkenny Tipperary footage coming up during you probably didn't see it actually because you were away, you were on the road, Mullen, you were at the game.
No, yeah, but I got back. Yeah, I got back.
TG Carter were showing the highlights of, let's say, Cork and Offaly, and the highlights of Tip and Kilkenny during the Galway Limerick game. Now, the Galway Limerick game always stayed on the screen, but I don't know about you, I just like focusing on one match because there's enough to take in one match. Now, I understand why they were doing it. And it wasn't necessarily the permutations for the hurling. There wasn't loads of jeopardy or anything like that. I think basically it was a trial run for the football the next day, which had jeopardy left, right and centre, and it was great to be able to see various games and updates being brought in. But I'm not sure how well it works for hurling because things happen too quickly, and the same in football now. Things are happening so quickly, it's almost like a game of ping pong as well. I appreciate the innovation, but I if I'm watching Galway and Limerick, I just want to watch that. It's enough for me to see an update coming up on the screen. Tipperary 113, Kilkenny 113, and maybe a table, how the table looks like now. I don't necessarily want to see the goals from Offaly and Cork. Like, I didn't think that was necessary. Like, Cork were barring a disaster, we're going to be in the final, and Offaly were already relegated. Do you know what I mean? But
would you be worried about Offaly now at the moment?
I would, John. Yeah, no, Jiz, I would be seriously worried because.
Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
would you also think that I know it's a tough league, and I know morale is when you're losing, no matter what happens, it's never good. But would you not be able to flip it and say, like, look, we still have played the top 7 teams maybe in the country here, week in, week out for these 2 months. This will surely stand to us going into the Leinster Championship where, or, you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is, you know, they say if you play bad teams, you get bad habits. They've been playing good teams, you know. So I don't know. Maybe that we won't know until the first round, I suppose. But
it's a mental thing, though, isn't it? Like it is. It's hard to. I'd be involved with teams here, you know, involved with a team in Meath there as well, and the championship was very lopsided. You'd be playing a team in the first round that you think, yeah, we can maybe beat these boys. You'd be playing teams in the next 3 games that are like top class, and you're basically trying to keep the train on the tracks for the remainder. It's not simple. You know what I mean? Well, it's a difficult balancing act. You know what I mean? Like morale is a funny thing, lads. Losing game. It's not like, I'll put it this way. I'd be big into the horses, right? Say you run a horse at grade 1 level 5 times in a row, and he comes well down the field in grade 1 level. He doesn't know when he drops back to a grade 3. He doesn't know that he's after facing all these deadly horses. He just knows that he's coming in against a grade 3. The opposition isn't as good now. He's no confidence hit. He's no morale sapped or like that. Humans are different, like, and it's very difficult to land in to training the following Tuesday. Very difficult to do the debrief when you're after, as you said earlier, Pat, when you're after getting, excuse my language, when you're after getting your hole opened, excuse my language, but it's difficult to keep the morale high, and you can't just flick it on, you know what I mean?
No,
who did they have in the first round? Do you know, Mick?
They have Dublin at home in the first round.
Yeah, see.
Like you're 100% right there, Bernie. Like, it's not like a light switch. Like, feel good factor is massive in the modern game, lads. It's massive. And momentum, results, you know, getting good results behind you. And that's where the league is at now, like, you know, picking up good results. Like, the league is nearly a follow-on now into the championship. It wasn't like previous years, you know, where you could have an under par league. But you look at all the teams now that have gone by the last couple of years. The teams that relatively, or the teams that do well in the league relatively could push on to have a good championship. And I even go back to 2005. We had a very, very poor league campaign in 2005, and it followed on into the championship. And you're on the button. We couldn't flick that switch to get it back. Whilst when we had good league campaigns, you know, we were all feeling good with ourselves. You're bringing it into training. You can't wait to go training. You can't wait to get feedback. You can't wait to go out and play in the A versus the B matches, and you can't wait for the championship to come around. And that's the big challenge now for Johnny Kelly and his management team, is to try and pick those lads up and try and bring some form of feel-good factor into the setup for the next couple of weeks. How he's going to do it, maybe go off and play a couple of challenge matches, maybe against lesser sides, try and get well, he's not going to be able to get many challenge matches against those lesser sides, because
unless he gets to go into Munster.
He's going to be coming up against the majority of those sides in the Leinster Championship. You know, when you flip that over, then he's coming up against a Dublin side who are really in their first game, who are really going to have the bit between their teeth. You know, coming off the back of a good championship, are in a league.
Liam Rush back in the Dublin squad as well, and Keane Boland.
Very interesting.
Yeah, Liam Rush back after a 4-year break. It was funny, I was chatting to him before the county final in 23. He'd been away for the year, and he didn't say he was retired. And I know Michael Donoghue asked him back, and I know Neil O'Callaghan asked him back, but he's back now. He's been training for the last couple of weeks, and like I don't think he's a starter or anything like that. But when a hole needs to be plugged with maybe 15, 20 minutes to go, geez, he brings some experience to the table now. It's a great one.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. Like, and it just goes to show you, like, even getting O'Donnell back as well. And Keane Boland hasn't played with Dublin, I think, since 23. He is exploring. Good lively player. He's exploring any avenue possible to try and get them to the mountain in Leinster. Lads, we're just going to take a quick break now. Let us know your thoughts or firing questions to Indo GAA podcast at independent.ie. And a reminder, our GAA podcast coverage is sponsored by AIB. Just the final point on Offaly, Mull. I would be very, very worried about going to Kildare for the last round of Leinster. Because if you're talking about sides that are on, different trajectories, Kildare on the up, Offaly are on the downer a small bit. But Kildare's league campaign probably finished on a bit of a downer the other night, Mull. You were there for the Wexford game. Wexford ran out comprehensive winners the other night. I was probably having a bit of an over and back with you. We probably disagreed on it. Brian Dowling has predominantly played most of the same players throughout the league. Rested, you could say he rested some of his bigger guns, the likes of Mirish Curtin and a few more. Maybe didn't show his cards too much. You kind of think the other thing, basically. You think maybe that Wexford have a little bit of a one up on them now.
Oh, 100%. Sure, what the Wexford scored? They scored 329.
Yeah.
And they definitely, I have the programme here in front of me, they definitely left behind another 15, 16 wides. They were totally dominant from start to finish in the match. I think they were 4 or 5 points up at half time, but it wasn't a true reflection of their dominance in the first half. And I was a small bit disappointed by Kildare. I was expecting an awful lot more. Now, obviously, they're playing each other in 4 weeks' time. You can throw in the bit of shadow boxing and hold them back a bit, but I mean, you don't hold back a bit. When you go to take to a field, albeit you're going to be playing a team in 4 weeks' time, there's no way Brian Dowling would have, set his team out to concede that much in a match, and that would be the worry for me. I think Wexford won that match the other day at their ease, and even I was nearly getting sucked into the talk of Kildare are nearly at Wexford's level. They're not, and unless they're playing each other in 4 weeks' time, unless Wexford are very complacent, their levels drop a lot, and Kildare's levels come up tenfold. And albeit, look, they were missing Conan Baran, and Keane Baran didn't start.
Born.
Conan Bourne and Keane Bourne and Maurice Curtin. I still don't think. I think Wexford have better skilled hurlers than Kildare. Kildare they're making massive progress. They're getting there. But if you're Keith Rossiter and you're hearing the talk out there that, you know what, Kildare are going to overturn you in a couple of weeks' time in Newbridge, Jesus, that would drive you. Like, that's kind of a small bit of albeit Kildare are making great strides. It's a small bit of an insult to Wexford, if you want my one.
Well, Mull, I'd be straight with you. No, you're right. That's the way you have to take it. You're right. No, you're right.
I'll put it this way to you. When Kilkenny and Galway go to play Clare or go to play Kildare,
oh yeah,
they'll be going up to take on Kildare, hoping to beat them by double-digit scores. So Wexford have aspirations to try and go and take on a Galway or go and take on a Kilkenny or a Dublin. So they should be thinking along the same lines. Now, obviously, I would take into account Newbridge. It's a tighter dimensioned pitch that will play into Kildare's favour. But I will be shocked in 4 weeks' time if Kildare are to overturn Wexford on the evidence of what my eyes seen last Saturday night.
But I will say, last Saturday night was a nothing game. There was nothing on the line. And I will put it to you this way. What did Keith Rossiter and Wexford learn about Kildare the other night? I would say very little. What did Kildare and Brian Dowling learn about Wexford the other night? I would say a hell of a lot. I think it's set up for a small bit of an ambush in Newbridge. I'm not saying Kildare will beat them, but I think it'll be way more competitive than that. And I think it'll be...
No. Well, that's for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure, because they're not going to concede 329. But I like what Rossiter's doing, and I think maybe we have to give maybe we're homing in on Kildare too much. And speaking to some of to Tom Dempsey and Billy Byrne and Liam Spradden, a couple of them down there during the match, and there is a realization they are where they are at the moment, and that they have to kind of to build. And Tom was even mentioned to me, if they were in Munster, they would find it extremely difficult. But look, they have an opportunity in Leinster. But like, I think you got to get. I like what Rosser's doing, and I like their style of play as well. And even the other day, we relate back to previous matches where they went with one up top. Their structure changed the weekend. He committed more bodies forward, particularly in the full forward line. There was times he had three inside, there was times he had two up top, and I actually think it suited Wexford way better. Simon Roach was good. Jack Redmond was very good. Got 3-2. There's one lad came on, Killian Byrne, full of legs, full of energy. He's a brother to Keane Byrne.
Oh,
Keane
yeah.
Byrne got 2 points. I think this Killian Byrne now, you could see a bit of him in the Leinster Championship. I like the look of him. I like Dara Carley, corner back. I think he's been a big find. Connor Foley, lads, is really starting to grow at full back. He had a very good year last year. He's starting to build on that. Richie Lawler is really excelling at centre back. Conor Hearn was being Conor Hearn. And
Shane Rick is coming back into you as well. Shane Rick was
Shane Rick is due back, and Liam Ryan and Jack O'Connor as well, lads. So all of a sudden they're going to have a panel of players to go and attack the Leinster Championship and try and get into that top 3.
Pat, I know you have to go out the gap now in a second, because that's why, just like any of our viewers on YouTube, that's why Pat has the good shirt on. You're on the way to a confirmation, Pat, is it?
Yeah, my nephew Tommy's confirmation there in about 10 minutes. So
I leave you with this one, a lovely sticky wicket to finish on. We're talking about a lot of Leinster teams there. Give me your rationale and give me your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the Leinster Championship. We talk enough about Munster. Leinster's not simple to predict either.
I'm telling you, Leinster is set up for a great championship this year. It really is. It really is. And you mentioned an ambush there, and that is Kildare's plan to ambush them, in the first round, especially after the result of the day. But to me, there's so-called ambushes everywhere. But the big one to me is if the first round plays out like we almost expected, in terms of Kildare or Wexford will be favourites to win. If Wexford win, and Galway will be favourites to get over the line against Kilkenny in round 1. The big ambush then is the second game for Wexford down in Nolan Park, and so 6. I go Kildare 6.
Thanks.
Offaly 5. Wexford 4. Kilkenny 3. Dublin 2. Galway 1.
Good man. In fairness, you nailed your colours to the mast. Pat, your phone is ringing there because it said someone telling you to get out the gap. So yeah, great stuff. We'll talk soon. Talk next week. Cheers, Pat. Good man.
See you, Pat.
It's good when you had to put a lad on the spot and he actually has to say the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Mull, just on the other kind of league action, Clare obviously were off last weekend. They're through to the final. Down and Antrim. And they're going to meet again in the Joe McDonough. But there was fair old whooping and hollering when Donald Hughes scored that last minute goal to win the game for Down. And Antrim would have been a fair bit ahead of the other teams in Ulster up until recently. And now you're kind of wondering, should the Ulster Championship be kind of reborn, especially with the two of them? Derry aren't a million miles away. Donegal are in a Division 3 final. There's plenty of teams that are competitive now. It would be good to have that on the table again, wouldn't it? If there was some way of playing it.
Sure, Vernie. We were born and raised, back in the 80s and 90s, where Down and Antrim in Casement Park, and as the years went on, Antrim, the margin would be 8-9 points, and then the margin would get closer and closer and closer, and then that great Down team of 92 came along, Sands and McGranton and Blaney and all the boys came along, and then Down, they beat Antrim in 92, and they won a couple of Ulster championships.
Yeah, Offaly beat them in the All-Ireland semi-final in 95, I can remember, yeah.
98, so Down pushed on and won a couple of Ulster championships, and then Derry came along then, and then Derry...
Yeah. Big Jeffrey, some handful.
Big Jeffrey. I remember it was at 98 Derry won the Ulster Championship, because they went on and played Offaly in the All-Ireland quarter-final. Waterford played Galway in the other All-Ireland quarter-final. So if they bring it back, it would kind of reignite the whole Ulster Championship again. The next thing, it would get people in Derry kind of taking, getting excited again. And what's to say that Derry might push on and win an Ulster Championship, but definitely going off a last Saturday night's result and the air of excitement around Down, I definitely think, in a one-off fixture, they should bring it back. And And then hopefully then in time then Derry might come back into the fold, and who's to say then Donegal and maybe Armagh. But yeah, that was a super win for Down, and even just celebrations after. But there's one sure thing: Davy Fitzgerald will use that as fuel. I think they're due to meet each other in the first round of the Joe McDonagh.
A month's time, yeah.
A month's time. So the Joe McDonagh is going to be a really exciting competition again. And I'm kind of trying to weigh up who I think are going to win the Joe McDonagh. And I still think Antrim will win the Joe McDonagh. So I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna go with Antrim to get the job done and get back up to Limerick Galway Hurling.
Okay, and despite Down's win the other day, they still suffered relegation. Themselves and Carlow went down. Carlow were beaten comprehensively by Dublin. So Antrim did stay safe in fourth. So there'll be a bit of gloominess over the defeat, but as you said a couple of months ago, even he couldn't countenance being relegated to Division 2. It would have been a bit of a disaster. So at least they maintained their place in 1B, and in the Division 2 final, 3 and 4, they're all been played this weekend as well. And you obviously have Laois and Kerry in that Division 2 final this weekend. And Laois were beaten in the McDonagh final last year. So and Kerry are in the Christie Ring this year. So Kerry will be hoping to come straight back up to McDonagh, and Laois should be hoping, I'd say, to be in definitely the latter stages or at least the final of a Joe McDonagh. But it's going to be seriously competitive as well. Just away from the action, Mull, it was very, very sad when the news broke on Sunday about the passing of Michael Lyster. I don't know about you, but just synonymous with so many things. The Sunday game obviously being one, but synonymous with sport. And when I turned on my TV when I was a young lad, when I probably shut me watching telly on a Saturday morning and Sports Stadium came on, and because it's just, they were really simple times, and seeing sport on television was not rare, but it was rare enough. And Michael Lyster's face was always, the previous generations, it would have been, Micheál O'Hare and Jim Carney even with the Sunday game. But my generation, Michael Lyster is synonymous with it, and he was just, listen, he was an amazing broadcaster and an amazing man.
Sure, Michael, look, I mean, you're on the button there. I mean, back in the 80s and 90s when we were growing up, there was no Wi-Fi, one TV per household. Some people had the luxury of 2 TVs. If you were living out in the countryside, you only had RT1 and Network 2. There was no TV.
Network 2, I tell you, I haven't heard that one in a while now.
And look, for us in the city, you got the BBC channels and ITV.
Hey, Mull, were you like myself? Do you remember the old multi-channel box? It had 12 channels on it. That was when it kind of developed a bit, and you had BBC and ITV, but 5 and 6 used to be blurry unless you had Sky Sports. I remember watching Sky Sports. I remember watching a full match through a blurry screen that, trying to see what was going on. It's amazing.
And then we're kind of having a reeling in the ears moment here. Then Sky One came along.
Yeah.
So then you kind of got an extra channel, but you usually have then Eurosport. Remember Eurosport?
Yeah.
Eurosport. I still love Euro goals on a Monday night. But yeah, I mean, they're spoiled for choice now, but I wouldn't give up what we had. And you just spoke about Michael there. He was a pillar in our childhoods growing up. I mean, the Sunday game. I mean, the first televised Munster final was Waterford and Tipperary in 1989. But it was the air of excitement as a kid, to be looking forward to the Sunday game, or the All-Ireland semi-finals would come along, and there was this unbelievable presenter from Galway who was actually born in Waterford, presenting the show, and he was just like, you were looking at this guy like he was God. I mean, there was no one. I mean, he was kind of the main kind of sports broadcaster, and then if you flick over to the channels then on BBC, and you had a BBC grandstand on a Saturday.
There's Lynham.
There's Lynham 12 to 5. But Sports Stadium was an unbelievable show. And I mean, your Saturdays as a kid, you go off training 10 to 11, you come back, you'd get a couple of blasts, we'd have the blasts, and then you'd have Football Focus, then Grandstand had come on, and then you'd have Sports Stadium. And the main person behind Sports Stadium, um, again, was Michael himself. And then you go on. Then you were a big snooker fan. I love snooker myself. Goffs,
Yeah.
Irish Masters, and the snooker. That was on the snooker circuit as well. Fabulous competition outside of the big three in snooker of the Masters, the UK Open, and the World Championships. The Irish Masters up in Goffs. I mean, did they have the gold trophy as well? Did they?
Yeah. It used to be the
gold,
Benson and Hedges Irish Masters.
the Benson and Hedges Irish Masters. Now, even some of the snooker players, to this day, they always relate back to the Irish Masters.
Ronnie always refers to it as one of the best venues because, like, I don't know if people are aware of it. Like, Goffs is obviously where, like, there's horses sold in Goffs. Where the snooker was played, it's basically where the horses would parade around in a ring and people would bid on them. That's where the snooker was played, in that exact arena. Like, it's mental. And it's just kind of I don't know, that circular kind of stadium or arena. Just, I don't know, everybody had a good vantage point. There was always a great atmosphere there. I actually went to see, it was like a Team England versus Team Ireland there maybe 7-8 years ago. Ronnie was playing in it, actually. And even you could feel the atmosphere. You know what I mean?
But even like, again, Michael was centre stage for that brilliant competition. As you alluded to there, they were just super times to grow up in. Beautiful times to be raised as a kid. Sports Stadium, the Sunday game, the likes of the Masters and the snooker. And then as he went on, I mean, the Sunday game, I think Pat Spillane spoke about it the weekend. It won't be the institution it is today, only for Michael Lyster. He was the one, focal point of the Sunday game, and even back to that famous interview I done in 2004. In the immediate aftermath of that interview, how he,
the I Loves Me County one.
Yeah, how he came in straight after, and the words after, and he just had a lovely way about him. Lovely way about him. And I'll go back to then the All-Star trips, Three Musketeers, as I call them, Brenny, Vinnie Hogan, and Lester. Jesus, the crack the three of them used to have, and they great times, great memories, and they were times when I look back with memories, they were kind of the main three of every trip, from start to finish until the moment they go home. And I'm sure that the two lads will be, really Vinnie Hogan and Martin Brenny, they'll be hurting this week, and rightly so. But I'd just like to offer me condolences to his family, and an unbelievable man, and we'll never see his like again.
And just to put a bow on it, like, I don't know if you ever get caught down a rabbit hole of. I got caught down a rabbit hole last week of watching Eamon Dunphy clips, and it's all Eamon Dunphy and Bill O'Hurley. Like, they're kind of the two, or Bill is the mediator in it all. I might get caught down a rabbit hole watching George Hook and Brent Pope, and Tom McGurk is the mediator. And when you get caught down a Pat Spillane or Joe Brolly or Colin O'Rourke or Ger Loughnane rabbit hole, it's Michael Lyster that's like mediating it and just facilitating great conversation, great debates, and some of the most talked about moments. Like every pub in Ireland was talking about what Brolly said or what Spillane said, and Leicester just let them kind of go at it, and it never really lost control, and he was there facilitating it, and he never had to have a crossword. He never spoke ill of anyone or bad of anyone. He just facilitated it all so unbelievably well.
But that was his personality.
Yeah,
I mean, that was just his personality as a whole. And even a couple of lads, he was always approachable, even for an autograph or a photo or anything like that. There was never any, oh no, I can't. He timed for everybody, and that was the one beautiful thing about Michael Lyster, and may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Just on that, two programs I would love to see coming back, and even just kind of show old episodes.
Yeah.
Is Sports Stadium and Glenroe.
Oh, be the Lord.
The RTE should just maybe run a couple of episodes of Sports Stadium and Glenroe, and kind of just show the the kids or the youth of today of what they missed out on, you know.
The youth of today have no idea. Remember, I'm going off on a woeful tangent here, but Miley's affair with Fidelma was like, oh my God! Like I remember him being on winning streak a while after, and remember they used to get special guests to spin the wheel.
Yeah,
and there was an hour one. She was one of the 5 participants, and by Jesus, did she cut Miley in two? And this is Mick Lally, like since deceased, unfortunately, a great actor, but she was cutting him in two over something his character had done, a year previous or something. It was mental. But I would agree with you, Mull. I think it's all there in the archives. I think they should throw out some of that stuff. I think it'd be fascinating to see. And you know what? They did get good numbers, and it would cost them nothing either. But Mull, that was a great trip down memory lane, and I'd echo what you said there, and sincere, I should say, condolences to the Lyster family and the loss of what was a great man and a great broadcaster, gone but not forgotten. Mull, thanks very much. We'll be reunited again next week, yourself and Pat. Until then, thanks a million.